Cartoons, welcome back to my channel. So this week we are doing a video that I have actually gotten quite a few requests for, and that is all about bearded dragon hygiene, which is why we are joined by Zaz today. We're basically going to talk about the importance of hygiene and just ways that you can make sure that your dragon and your enclosure stay all clean. But before we get started, this video is sponsored by the Dubia Dude. TheDubiaDude.com is an awesome place to get feeder roaches for your animals. He offers super top-notch, high-quality roaches. He feeds them all organic, and they get shipped directly to your house, which is awesome. He also is a small business, which means he cares about you and he cares about your dragon. Dubia roaches are my absolute favorite. They are very high in protein. They're super healthy. One of the healthiest feeders that you can get for various animals. They are Zaz's staple food along with my leopard geckos. They are awesome. They don't smell bad. They don't make a bunch of noise. Don't forget to use code L at thedubiadude.com to save 10% off of your order. Thank you so much to the Dubia Dude for sponsoring this video. So obviously hygiene for any reptile is going to be important, but we are going to focus on bearded dragons because that's what I get asked about often. And also bearded dragons are actually pretty prone to parasites and fungal infections, things like that. So we are going to focus on bearded dragons today. Again, I feel like I've been doing a lot of bearded dragon videos lately, but that's what you guys want to see. That's what I keep getting asked for. So we are just gonna roll with that. The easiest and probably one of the most beneficial things that you can do for your bearded dragon in terms of hygiene is giving them baths. Now, baths doesn't mean to put them in the tub and scrub them with soap or anything. It simply means to just let them soak in water. You can use things like a toothbrush or like a cheap scrubby brush from the Dollar Tree, whatever, to kind of scrub them a little if you want to, especially if they have run through their own poop or anything like that. But giving them baths is going to clean them if they've run through their own poop, and it's also going to hydrate them. For the most part, bearded dragons aren't going to drink water from a standing water bowl, so if your bearded dragon like Zaz here will not drink water out of a bowl, or if you choose not to keep a bowl in your enclosure, then giving baths is the next best thing. Oftentimes, since they are moving around in that bath water, they can see the water moving and they will actually drink from it, and sometimes they'll even poop in there too. Zaz loves pooping in the bath, and it makes cleanup a lot easier because I don't have to clean her tank. Baths are just absolutely wonderful for them. If a bearded dragon hasn't been given a bath in a little while, they almost develop a kind of a wet dog smell. I don't know how else to describe it. So to prevent that, just give them baths regularly. She gets a bath about every other day because I usually throw her in the bath when I know that she's about to poop, and the way that I know that is she just runs back and forth in her enclosure and kind of panics. To do this, I always fill up my sink. You can use like a small bucket or anything like that that they fit into comfortably, and you just fill it up. You don't want to make it deep. You want to make sure that they can comfortably stand in it with their head above the water. You don't want to put any kind of soaps or anything in there. Just warm water. Make sure that your water is not too hot or too cold. If you put your dragon in there and they start panicking, then it might be too hot or too cold. So just keep an eye on that. If you have one, you can actually use a laser thermometer to check the temperature of the water and make sure that it is not too hot or too cold, or you can just kind of feel it and just use your own judgment. So that will save you from having to clean an enclosure. It hydrates your dragon and it helps them go to the bathroom. Baths are, to me, one of the biggest, most important things that you can do for a bearded dragon. Next should be a given, but I've seen a lot of people say otherwise. If you walk by and notice that your bearded dragon has gone poop in their enclosure, clean it up. For some reason, on a lot of bearded dragon care guides, it says things like spot clean once a week. If you have ever encountered bearded dragon poop, it is absolutely vile, and it is not something that you want to let sit for a week. With Zaz, if she happens to use the bathroom in her tank, usually she does it in the bath, but if she happens to use it in her tank, she panics. Like, she goes crazy, and when that happens, they run the risk of running through it and just being covered in poop, which can cause parasites. It can cause them to have salmonella on their skin, and it is just very unclean. I've been asked how exactly it causes parasites, and basically, if your bearded dragon has just pooped and they ran through it, and let's say they got some on their foot and then they stepped in a salad bowl and then they ate that salad, then any parasites that was in their poop is now going right back into their body, and it is just a breeding ground for parasites. So we want to try to avoid that at all costs. The moment that you see that your bearded dragon has used the bathroom in an enclosure, please clean it up. You can do this a few different ways. I always get it cleaned up, and then I use a mixture of Dawn dish soap and water to spray over it and kind of scrub it more. But you can also use different kinds of like sanitation scrubs. The only one that I've ever used is Fluker's, so I always recommend that one. But any kind of reptile safe scrubs, don't use any heavy chemicals, don't use any like Lysol glass cleaners, anything like that. Don't use them in there. The fumes are going to be way too much for the animal. But something as simple as Dawn dish soap and water or a disinfectant like Fluker's would work perfectly for cleaning that mess up. But with the Fluker's, you do have to make sure that you rinse it thoroughly after you use it in the tank. Speaking of disinfecting tanks, you need to disinfect your tank about once a month, and that's simply just taking all the ornaments out and washing them off, wiping down flooring if you're using tile floor with a disinfectant, changing out substrate if you're using any kind of loose substrate. I highly advise against sand because it can cause impaction, but using any kind of bearded dragon safe loose substrate would need to be cleaned about once a month. Unless you're doing bioactive, that's kind of just changed on a needed basis because you have a cleanup crew to clean that stuff up. I've never done bioactive for a bearded dragon, so I don't have advice specifically on that, but make sure you are changing that stuff out frequently. If you are using paper towels, you're actually just gonna want to clean that out anytime that they use the bathroom on it. But just use your best judgment and make sure that you are keeping that tank sanitized. And again, that's just gonna help prevent parasites, and it's just good to keep your animal's tank cleaned. So on to substrates. Substrates are actually a big part of hygiene that I just briefly mentioned. I always use tile because, like I said, when they go to the bathroom, which is absolutely terrible, it is super easy just to wipe it out and clean it. My tile is grouted, so nothing gets down in between that. But using things like paper towels are also super helpful because you can just pull everything out. This is where using anything like carpets comes into play, and why a lot of people are against carpets. It's because carpets harbor parasites. When a bearded dragon goes to the bathroom on that carpet, it absorbs it. And to clean the carpet, you have to throw it in the wash machine because you can't just scrub off the carpet because, like I said, it has now absorbed all of that grossness. So carpets aren't the best. I used to have carpet in Zaz's tank a long time ago when I first got her, and that was because she never used the bathroom in her tank, so it couldn't really harbor parasites as bad. But I still don't suggest using carpet for bearded dragons just because of the hygiene factor. Again, I can't really speak for bioactive setups and loose substrates because I don't use those, but I would imagine that a loose substrate would actually probably benefit them when using the bathroom in their enclosures because it would kind of clump almost like kitty litter, and it would probably keep them from running through that and tracking it everywhere. I'm not sure, but that might help out some, maybe. In addition, in my experience, having multiple layers is also going to help with that problem. If you have a basking spot that's high up and your bearded dragon can use the bathroom down low and then immediately crawl up to a basking spot, it's going to also help to prevent them from tracking that everywhere because they have somewhere to get away from it. If your basking spot is flat on the ground and everything else is also flat on the ground, it's going to be a lot harder for your bearded dragon to get away from its waste, and you run the risk of them just running through it. So if you can put their basking spot up higher, that helps with that situation. On to food hygiene. Whether they are an adult or a baby, you should be giving your bearded dragon a salad every single day. Make sure that you are discarding any leftover uneaten salad every day, and make sure you are cleaning out their food bowls, and make sure that you are giving them fresh salad every day. And that again is just going to help keep your tank clean, and it's going to help prevent your tank from smelling bad and from attracting gnats, things like that. In addition, if you are using a a water bowl in your tank, make sure that you are cleaning out your water bowl, giving them fresh water every day and making sure that it stays clean, or else algae is going to build up in that water bowl. It's going to just become stagnant water, which is super gross, and it's just not good for anything. I know there is a lot of back and forth currently about water dishes and whether or not they are safe for bearded dragons. A small water dish in your enclosure is not going to hurt your bearded dragon unless you have a super tiny enclosure or your enclosure is made to trap humidity. A little bitty water dish that is away from a heat bulb isn't going to hurt anything. So if you are using one of those, just make sure that you are keeping it clean. I also would recommend feeding your animal in a separate container or tongue feeding them, some way to keep bugs from escaping into your tank. Uneaten bugs will get into the tank and hide and scratch and dig, and it will stress out your bearded dragon because they are constantly trying to get to this bug. So to keep that enclosure clean, make sure you are taking out any uneaten bugs as well. Nails. Bearded dragons' nails will grow pretty long and pretty sharp if you don't take care of them. And aside from hurting you and scratching you all up, it can become really uncomfortable for them as well. Just like with a dog, if their nails are getting really long and they walk, it's going to start to bend those toes and it's going to become uncomfortable for your bearded dragon. So you can help them by keeping their nails trimmed. Now, if you have something like tile in your enclosure, or if your bearded dragon digs a lot and they're in a bioactive enclosure, it's going to help to file those nails down. But if you don't, or if that's not doing enough, you are going to need to trim those nails. In order to trim a bearded dragon's nails, again, it's a lot like a dog's nails, where they are going to have a quick, and you are going to stay above that, and you are going to just trim off that very top part of their nail. This is super easy to do, and I know Zaz doesn't mind it at all. I was nervous the first time I did it because I thought that she was going to panic and bite me, but she didn't care at all. I just use normal nail clippers, or you can use like baby nail clippers because they're smaller, and for some reason they make that easier. But you just trim off that very tippy top part and they are good to go. Dealing with stuck shed. I'm putting this in my hygiene video because poor hygiene can lead to incorrect sheds. If you're not bathing your bearded dragon enough, or if they have gotten parasites, anything like that can cause them to have stuck shed. Usually stuck shed is pretty easy to take care of if you catch it right away. You can take care of it by just giving them baths more. You can also buy an over-the-counter reptile shedding aid. I like to buy this one and actually pour it into the bath water if she is having a hard time shedding, and that just kind of helps to get everything off. But you want to make sure that you're watching that their toes and their tail especially are shedding correctly. If shed is getting stuck around their tails or shed is getting stuck around their toes, they can actually lose parts of their tail or their toes, and it can cause infection, and that is unnecessary vet visits and lots of money spent. So just make sure that when your bearded dragon is shedding, you are watching to make sure that all the pieces are coming off. When I got Zaz, she was actually already missing the tip of her tail, and there's actually like a little ball at the tip of her tail where you can actually see that the shed got stuck around it when she was a little baby, and she lost the last probably 1.5 to 2 inches of her tail. So just make sure that that doesn't happen to your bearded dragon, and you're just watching to make sure everything comes off when it's supposed to. Now, don't panic. Keep in mind, bearded dragons are not going to shed all in one piece. They shed in little pieces, so don't panic when that happens. But you just want to make sure that everything's coming off when it's supposed to. But that is it for this video, guys. Like I said, hygiene for bearded dragons are super important because they are prone to parasites, and we want to try to prevent that. And it also is just going to overall keep your bearded dragon happy and healthy, and it's going to help to prevent costly vet visits. Just keep your bearded dragon and their enclosures clean, and it just helps with everything. If you're not already, feel free to follow me on my other socials, and like, subscribe, and hit that bell for notifications every single time I put out a video, which is every Sunday and Wednesday. Huge thank yous and shout outs to Honey the Dog and Arend Sumarnova 1965. So sorry if I butchered that. Thank you guys so much for following me on Instagram and going through and liking a whole lot of stuff. You guys are the bee's knees. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Bye.